Hi, welcome to Casually Odd, where I casually talk about a topic and I invite you to join the discussion in the comments over some miscellaneous gameplay footage. Today's topic is the recently released FBC Firebreak. It's also playing in the background, and why its very existence is a tragedy to the studio that made it, Remedy Entertainment, and my defense and also scolding of Remedy, and what to do moving forward. I'm gonna have a TLDR at the end of this video and I'll timestamp it in the description, so you can just jump to that if you'd like to have a TLDR of this entire video. But if you do that, please then leave a like and a comment so this video gets some engagement. And if you watch the entire video, then feel free to dislike it and tell me to go screw myself in the comments. How's that? So before Remedy dropped this little dookie here in our laps, I love Remedy. I love the Remedy verse they made with Alan Wake and Control. I love Max Payne, but this game is just nothing like those games, right? Those games are a single player experience with a nice meta-narrative story, and it has action-packed gameplay that actually feels good and responds good. This game has none of that. It feels boring. It feels like a cookie cutter, like horde shooter, like at best, right? And it feels like, I don't know, maybe a tech demo at worst. But to start off, Remedy started as a really small company, of course, in Finland. First, they made Death Rally, which wasn't really that successful, and that's the one game that I didn't play. I guess I'm not a real Remedy fan then. But their first successful game was a game you might know. It's called Max Payne, which was released and published by Rockstar Games. A lot of people actually attribute the making of the game to Rockstar Games, but that's not true. A lot of people call Max Payne 1 like a lost Rockstar classic, a Rockstar with a cult following. No, this is a purely Remedy game. Remedy made the assets, wrote the story, coded the game, designed the game, everything. Remedy made it. Rockstar just, gave them money for marketing and for the everything else. For Max Payne 2, Rockstar was much more involved for the development of that game, but the actual development still sticks to Remedy, while publishing and producing can be attributed to Rockstar this time. And those two games probably still to this day might be the most well-known Remedy games. A lot of people probably don't even know the name of the studio, but they know the Max Payne games. But after those two games, Remedy had quite the problem getting another publishing company or just any company to invest in them again so that they can make another game. But eventually they got Microsoft on board to make Alan Wake. Originally, it was for the Xbox 360 only. It then eventually went to PC. And the game didn't do too well when it actually released, but it made a cult following a few years later. That often happens with a movie or a TV show or a video game. It happens with any piece of media. But from the business side of things, you kind of want a thing to make money right away, as it releases, saying well, the game that we made with your help, it didn't do so well at first, but 8 years later people started liking it and some people bought it, and people made videos about it. That's not a really good pitch. You kind of need to make money straight up. And after that, Remedy had trouble with money again until Microsoft again went to them and they made Quantum Break, which, a lot of that game's kind of divisive. For some, it's kind of okay. For some, it's really terrible. For me, I guess it's kind of in the middle. It's certainly not the best Remedy game, but it's not god-awful like this game is, So this game, again, didn't do too well, and it didn't even really garner a cult following after. Some people do kind of like it, and they really want to connect it to the Remedyverse and stuff. But no, this game just straight up didn't do too well financially. Then, when we go to 2018, we actually do have quite a successful title with Control, with the help from 505 Games. As you can see, Remedy can't really make a game on their own. They just don't have the facilities for that, the financial facility. And Control was a much more successful title, and it's also set in the oldest house where also the FBC takes place. But these games are just completely night and day. Like, the shooting actually feels like it has weight in Control. The sound design of the shooting is much better, and when you shoot a guy, he actually instantly reacts and it feels like he has weight to it. And as I said, this game was actually pretty successful. It even allowed them to make a nice little tasty helping of some DLC that then eventually connected the universe of Control back to Alan Wake. So now they have a thing that we like to call a Remedyverse cooking, right? They have a connected timeline between the games, at least between Alan Wake and Control, because Max Payne is still owned by Rockstar and Quantum Break is still owned by Microsoft. So they can't have those two in there. And then most recently in 2022, you may have heard of Alan Wake 2. Now that game is award-winning, and it's been quite successful actually. So you see how Remedy actually has the hallmarks of like a good video game company. I mean, sure, they have some whiffs, but I mean, they have their own in-house engine, Northlight. They have narratives in video games that a lot of people consider like classics and like the best of all time. And as I said, their games have a cult following. They have something that people want to analyze and look at and review and make like 5-hour video essays of. That's the kind of thing that you want in today's day and age. But its entire existence, Remedy Entertainment has been having trouble of getting funding. Like, sure, they have an idea for a game, they can pitch you a game, but it's really hard for them to get the money. And usually, at least, for all of their games, they don't do really well right away. They do get sales later down the line, but not right away, which makes people hesitant to invest in them again. So Remedy actually went public in 2017. What does that mean? That means that private equities or other corporate entities can invest, so straight up just put money into the company and then eventually get dividends. So gets paid, they get money back. They have to get money back. And in 2021, 14% of the company was bought by Tencent. If you don't know what company Tencent is, it's a Chinese company that basically just buys other companies. That company itself, it doesn't actually have an in-house game studio. All they do is they already have a shit ton of money, and all they do is they either invest in another game studio, they buy a majority stake of a video game studio, which means that they pretty much own it, or they entirely buy a video game studio, which means that basically what you make is basically our money now. A big company that's owned by Tencent Games is Riot Games, the people who make and update League of Legends and Valorant. So basically, Riot Games doesn't do anything unless Tencent lets them. Tencent is basically the boss of Riot. I mean, they could completely throw Riot Games into the can if they wanted, but why would they do that? They produce things for League of Legends and Valorant, which are like the two most played PC online games. But not just that, I mean, they own a lot of shares in Ubisoft. They even own shares of From Software. They have their fingers in so many pies, including 14% of Remedy, starting in 2021. And Chinese investors are famously and also kind of comedically, if you ever saw that South Park episode, you kind of want to please those Chinese investors, When you want to release a movie in China, you got to make sure they like it, all that stuff. So Remedy eventually kind of wanted to take up a large multiplayer project in 2021. So its mid-development title was called Condor. You can actually tell this because Remedy actually publicly releases the videos that they send to investors, which is like, where they talk about how much money the game is making, how much each product is making, and how much they're hoping a product will make, what they're working on, stuff like that. And it was mentioned that way back then they were working on something called Condor, which was a co-op multiplayer experience set in the Control universe, or in the oldest house where the Control takes place. But this game was kind of in development hell for such a long time, and eventually at one point they said that it was scrapped, which means that they're not even gonna work on it anymore. And I guess I was kind of sad when I heard it got cancelled, but then like a few months later I get this trailer for like FBC Firebreak, and I'm like, what? Wait, like when I saw the concept art, it looked completely different. The idea was similar but not like this. But now you just dump this like on me all of a sudden? So yeah, I can't confirm this 100%, but basically what I think FBC Firebreak is basically a monstrosity of leftovers and reused assets of Project Concord and Control. Which, I mean, technically even Concord would have had reused assets from Control because it takes place in the same building and it has a lot of the same enemies and stuff like that. But this was like a reused asset of a scrapped project. So it's like a leftover twice removed. So this is the first multiplayer title of a studio that's more focused on single player games, and they were forced to rush it out when they already thought that they could stop working on it. And they were then forced to completely redesign the characters and the concept of the game. Like, you just can't do that. Like, it's not fair to the developers and it's not fair to the audience that consumes Remedy content. That's why I think that the existence of this game is a tragedy, because it just shows that corporate greed and want to make something that's, oh, well, everyone likes fun multiplayer gameplay loop. Which, yeah, it is fun, and there's a reason why those games are popular, but not Remedy. Remedy doesn't do well in that department. You want Remedy to make a single player game. So what do we do about this going forward? Okay, if you can, refund this game and don't buy it. You might think I'm gonna like defend it and I'm gonna say like, oh, just buy the game so that Remedy gets money. No. Do not give Remedy money for this game. Do not. But when the remakes of Max Payne 1 and 2 comes out, buy that. They are also working on Control 2. Buy that. Why? Because I guarantee you that those games will actually be good. Like, I guarantee you 100% those single player games that Remedy's gonna drop, those are what's gonna be good. Okay? I played Alan Wake 2 when it dropped in 2022. Day 1, it was good. There was no bugs, there was no problems, and it felt good, and it played good, and of course the story was awesome. I love the story. So by leaving this game alone, just leave this game alone. Try to not even interact with the social media about it after this video. Leave this one in the dirt, but when Max Payne 1 and 2 come out and Control 2, purchase that. Work with that. Watch the content around that, so that we show those marketing people and the business side of things that that's what sells. That's what they should pour money into. That's what Remedy does best, perhaps the best out of all companies. And that's an action-packed, fun, single-player experience with a captivating, mind-bending story. That's what we need from Remedy. That's what we want, not this. Okay, so TLDR. Remedy is mostly known for single-player games with a rich narrative, so this is completely out of left field for them. The private investors who thought, hey, games like these print money these days, just look at Helldivers and shit. But they hired a studio that doesn't work in those parameters. They tried for years and couldn't get it working, so it was cancelled at first, so of course the game doesn't work well. And then from that cancelled project, it was born again into another like reused asset, cookie cutter, bullshit co-op shooter. This game was actually forced to exist for easy profit. So going forward, try to refund this game, don't buy it, but buy the Max Payne remake or Control 2 when it comes out to show investors that that's what sells from Remedy. And that's what Remedy is good at, not this. But again, I would love to hear what you think about this topic. What do you think about the game? If you're a person who this is your first Remedy game, I hope I kind of inspired you to look at their other titles, their single player catalog, which I promise on my gamer cred are way better. Way better. If you like single player games with a mind-bending narrative, Alan Wake 2 Control, Max Payne 1 and 2, kinda, those are just more like action games. And Quantum Break, you know, if you have the time. Quantum Break as well. Thanks again. Leave a comment, leave a like, all that stuff. Let's start a conversation down there. I would love to. I hope you have a good rest of your day and take care.